Hi, I'm Jim Stroud, and this is my podcast. How is that return to the office policy working out for you? Well, if your company is anything like Grindr, it's not working out too well. In case you had not heard, Grindr lost half of its workforce over a 2-day return to office mandate. Ouch! I share the details about that after this.
Hi, I'm Megan Whittington, and welcome to Jim Stroud's podcast. While he's away, let me tell you about an exciting event. Get ready for SourceCon, the original conference for the sourcing community, coming live to Minneapolis on September 21st and 22nd. It's not your typical conference. SourceCon's theme this fall is Sourcing in the Age of AI, and we will dive deep into the AI revolution shaping talent sourcing as we know it today. So come on out, sharpen your skills, network with sourcing pros, and gain actionable insights, whether you're joining us live in person or online. Challenge yourself and participate in the SourceCon Hackathon, our online talent scavenger hunt, for a chance to win a lifetime free pass to all future SourceCon conferences. And as a bonus, post-conference you'll enjoy 3 months of ERE Pro's on-demand sourcing and recruiting videos to relive the sessions that you missed. So don't miss out on SourceCon, where inspiration sparks implementation. Get your tickets now and use Jim's promo code for 15% off your in-person or digital ticket. You ready? It's JSSCFLL23. Again, that's JSSCFLL23. Without further ado, I present Jim Stroud.
Over at Grindr, there is a lot of drama going on over their return to the office policy. Here's a quote from the New York Post. Nearly half of LGBTQ dating app Grindr's workforce has quit after the company enacted a strict 2-day per week in-office requirement, and furious staffers claim the mandate was in retaliation for their campaign to unionize. Last month, Grindr informed employees that they had 2 weeks to decide whether they would relocate to a hub office location and work on-site 2 days per week or terminate their employment, according to the labor group Communications Workers of America. Though through the end of August, about 80 employees, roughly 45% of Grindr's 180-person workforce, had left the company due to the mandate, union organizers said. Grindr offered a severance package for employees who could not or would not comply with the relocation requirement, a move that the group described as an attempt to silence workers from speaking out about their working conditions. The decision to enforce the policy has been criticized as it has gutted a uniquely queer space in tech. Losing almost half of its staff is not a great business decision, and the rumor mill says it is likely that higher performing employees have left the company. Bottom line, management thought they could force people back to the office, but they could not, and the long-term ramifications will haunt them. At the very least, when you lose half your company, the other half will be overloaded with work, which means more workers will eventually leave. Investors will likely say, yeah, I'm out, and that's not even the worst of it. This is what I think will likely happen next. These are 3 things I think will likely happen over at Grindr. 1, decreased productivity. With fewer employees, Grindr will struggle to maintain the same level of productivity and output that they had when they had 50% of their workforce with them. This may turn off their customer base and incentivize them to just go elsewhere for their needs. Number two, damage to company culture. The controversy surrounding the return to work policy and the mass exodus of employees could damage Grindr's company culture and reputation. It may be difficult for the company as a result to attract and retain top talent in the future, especially since they operate in such a narrow customer base. And then three, financial impact. Losing almost half of their workforce could have, probably already has had, a significant financial impact on Grindr. Now, the company may need to spend more money as a result, more money on recruiting, more money on training new employees, more money to incentivize their remaining workforce to get them to stay. Maybe that's, extra bonus or something, or a bump in pay to keep them in place as long as they possibly can. And keep in mind, all that extra spending will happen as they likely experience a drop in revenue because of all the controversy. I think the Grindr situation is the worst backlash I've heard of related to return to office policies, but they are hardly unique. Meta and Amazon both implemented strict mandates that their employees pushed back on. Google went as far as tracking the badges of office workers and noting attendance in performance reviews, which led to concerns about employee privacy and autonomy. For that matter, you can add to the list Disney and Starbucks, whose return to office policies have been criticized for being inflexible and not taking into account the needs and preferences of individual employees. Funny thing though, all of these reactions were predicted well ahead of time and backed up with data. There was a survey by digital.com which found that half of workers would quit if forced to return to the office, while 9 in 10, am I looking at this right? Yep, 9 in 10 companies said they would fire non-compliers. Interesting. We definitely have a good idea how workers feel about the return to office policies. But what about the bosses? What have they have to say about the return to office movement? Well, here's a quote from CNBC. After 3 years of haphazard plans for getting workers back at their desks, the return to office movement has entered a phase of remorse. A whopping 80%, that's 80% of bosses regret their initial return to office decisions and say they would have approached their plans differently if they had a better understanding of employees' office attendance, their usage of office amenities, and other related factors, according to new research from Envoy. Many companies are realizing they could have been a lot more measured in their approach rather than making big, bold, very controversial decisions based on executives' opinions rather than employee data. That's according to Larry Gadea, Envoy CEO and founder, who told that to CNBC. Now, here's another quote, another CNBC quote, which says this. Kathy Catcher, a consultant who advises corporate executives on their return to office plans, is surprised the percentage isn't higher than 80%. Many organizations that attempted to force a return to the office have had to retract or change their plans because of employee pushback, and now they don't look strong, says Catcher, the president of Career Life Alliance Services. A lot of executives have egg on their faces, and they're sad about that. If you ask me, I can honestly see both sides of the coin. Work from home is preferred by workers for sure. But I also acknowledge the advantages of collaboration that comes from working in person with coworkers. My suggestion to companies is to survey your workers and get a feeling for what they prefer. Offer flexibility in terms of when and where they work, and offer incentives for returning to the office, like, catered lunch, childcare would be nice, or some other benefit that would be available exclusively to those who work in the office. Whatever you do, it needs to come in the spirit of compromise. Otherwise, you might spark a mass exodus that you cannot afford in the short term, and certainly not in the long term. Well, my time is up. I thank you for yours. I'll see you again real soon right here with a brand new episode of the Jim Stroud Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached by email at jimstroud@jimstroud.com. And one last favor, if I may ask, please rate this podcast. 5 stars is preferred, but please comment with your honest opinion. I really appreciate that. All right? Okay, until next time, bye-bye.